It's Friday, September 16. In the headlines, a suggested $20 billion infrastructure development program. Regionally, Antigua hit by tropical storm Fiona. And in sports, Usain Bolt and Elaine Thompson-Herah hit the runway at New York Fashion Week. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. There's a call for the implementation of a $20 billion infrastructure development program that targets communities, housing schemes, farm roads, bridges, drains, and river training. Member of Parliament for St. Mary Western, Robert Montague, voiced the proposal in the House of Representatives on Wednesday. Making his contribution to the 2022-2023 constituency debate in the House on Wednesday, Member of Parliament for St. Mary Western, Robert Montague, said the funds should be allocated from one of three sources annually for 5 years. He says the funds must be allocated to the National Works Agency and the municipal corporations.
However, a portion of these funds must be reserved for constituencies to deal with local priorities. An equal minimum amount should be allocated per constituency and additional funds given based on parish council divisions and population size based on the voter. It is manifestly unfair for constituencies with 2 parish council divisions to get the same amount as those with 4, 5, or 6 divisions, or those with twice as many citizens.
The St. Mary Western MP has also raised security concerns that have emerged with banks increasingly outsourcing some customer service functions to business process outsourcing entities, BPO entities.
If one of them takes 10 cents from my account daily, or 10 cents out of every account, you know how much that is, Madam Speaker? It is estimated that there are over 500,000 savings and current accounts that are not dormant. Madam Speaker, that's $1 million per month if 10 cents is taken 5 days per week.
He's taking issue with some banks' responses to customer complaints.
My information can be sold to a lot of scammers. And as you know, being from the West, that now you have scamming in Ireland, a new industry. Many people are seeing funds going missing from their accounts, credit cards running up massive balances, and all kind of funny activities on their accounts. But the banks don't hold themselves liable. They hold the people of Western St. Mary and other rural towns liable. And if you appeal to them for redress, they tell you all 4 or 5 months before you can get any redress. The Minister of Finance and the Bank of Jamaica must act on this matter.
Mr. Montague says a banking license is a privilege. It's not a right. He says the issuer of that license can rein in the entity.
Don't tell me that the Minister or the BOJ has no power. The government always have a big stick, and they must use it on behalf of the people of Western Sydney.
Some 200,000 of the nation's citizens do not have legal proof of identity. The National Identification System's Operation Birthright project has been launched to address the issues among Jamaicans who are without birth certificates. The initiative was launched days ago at the Office of the Prime Minister. Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, Floyd Green, says the initiative will provide identity registration support for the birth certificate specifically to disadvantaged children and adults without legal and physical identification documents.
Those who do not have a birth certificate are at a significant disadvantage, and it prevents access to critical services. There are many stories over the years, and as you look on the screen, you will see a number of stories about people who, because they do not have a birth certificate, they have been unable to access some of the most critical services. You know, quite recently, I came across the story of Rolando Grant, a 16-year-old hearing impaired young man from Linstead in St. Catherine, who, because of challenges in getting a birth certificate was out of school for 2 years.
Here's why it's important to have a birth certificate.
It is one of the most vital documents in your life. Your birth certificate gives you your proof of age, nationality, identity, and it is required to carry out some of our most important and personal transactions: to receive, to enroll in school, to apply for work, to receive benefits from the government. Normally, all those processes require a birth certificate.
Eligible persons can be recommended for the undocumented registration program by several institutions and personnel.
Firstly, in order to be eligible, you or the person wishing to register must have been born in Jamaica, be aged 1 year and above, monthly income of 37,000 Jamaican dollars and below, not be currently receiving or have received similar assistance under another similar program. Persons can be recommended by any of the following: the head of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, senior official in the Ministry of Local Government certifying an individual as a registered poor, member of parliament, a justice of the peace, public officer SEG 1 and above, medical practitioner, minister of religion, police officer, gazetted ranks, parish councillor, dental surgeon, principal, primary, secondary, and tertiary educational institutions, veterinarian, bank manager, official representative of the Salvation Army, official representative of the Missionary of the Poor, the CEO, coordinator of a registered civil society organization, the head of the PATH program in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security if the applicant is on PATH.
The acquisition of and access to a birth certificate will enable every Jamaican to be eligible for registration under NIDS when it is rolled out. Jamaica's National Identification System will verify an individual's identity and facilitate the electronic signing of documents and secure access to a range of government services online. Tax Administration Jamaica says 2 companies have been fined almost $4 million for breaches of the tax law in the Sutton Street Revenue Court. Tax Administration of Jamaica says Q&S Enterprise Jamaica Limited was fined $3.2 million, while Palm Rose Commodity Limited was ordered to pay $700,000 by the courts for breaches under the General Consumption Tax and Revenue Administration Acts. The tax authority says it presented evidence in court recently that the Kingston-based Q&S Enterprise in 2020, through its directors Stanford Henry and Dagmar Berry, on several occasions unlawfully collected GCT, though it was not registered to do so. Both directors pleaded guilty to 3 offenses on July 4 this year. Palm Rose Commodity Limited was fined after its director Rudolph May pleaded guilty to failure to produce books, records, and documents requested by TAJ under the Revenue Administration Act. In the business report, main event company making strides, plus your regular market updates. Denita Rodney is at the business desk.
Main Event is reporting growth for the 4th consecutive quarter, with the highest revenue recorded in a quarter as the entertainment industry recovers from the lockdowns associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. The event management company reported net profits of $123.7 million for the 3 months ended July 2022, an increase of $95 million over the corresponding period. Main Event said the improved performance for its 3rd quarter was underpinned by increased activity in its core business. For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Thursday, September 15, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.06. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.48. The pound sterling traded for $175.37, and the euro sold for an average of $152.95. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 404 points. The junior market index declined by 12 points. The combined market index advanced by 261 points. and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 157 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 100 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 44 declined, and 14 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Viable Preference, Blue Power Group Limited, and First Rock Real Estate Investments Limited USD. The overall volume leaders were Express Catering Limited with over 10 million units, One-on-One Educational Services Limited with over 4 million units, and iCreate Limited Ordinary Shares with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was once again the only active security posting a volume of over 60,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with 5,500 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank, which traded 122 shares. In regional business, the United States government has restated its pledge of $28 billion in financing for Caribbean countries. The announcement was made as President Dr. Fiona and other Caribbean leaders met with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris on Thursday.
As you're aware, Guyana has a responsibility of chairing the U.S. CARICOM Dominican Republic Subcommittee on Food Security and Agriculture. Over the last 6 weeks, we have had 10 meetings of this subcommittee that is co-chaired by the Foreign Secretary, Robert Prasad. Today, the leaders with responsibility for the three subcommittees, Energy, Agriculture, and Finance, met with the U.S. Vice President and the President of the Dominican Republic to review progress since the committees were established and to outline the strategy moving forward. We also had the opportunity to discuss matters surrounding an integrated energy plan, in which we proposed that there must be a joint approach to ensure regional sustainability in the energy mix and energy framework that includes natural gas, fossil fuel, and renewables. As you're aware, Barbados, Suriname, Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago are key players in the energy sector. I propose at the meeting that the U.S. engage these countries in an effort to building a sustainable development strategy for energy security, not only for the region, but also for the U.S. and further afield. In terms of agriculture, there has been tremendous progress on the subcommittee dealing with food security. Not only an announcement by the U.S. that $28 million will be available immediately to look at the short-term activities in supporting the increase in food production and bettering agriculture in the region, but also we agreed in tackling the inter-regional trade barriers and those that exist with the U.S. We have agreed that we're going to have a common agenda in which we will support a common certification program, sanitary and phytosanitary program, that will ensure that all of us are operating on the same playing field and that the barriers to trade are removed. Transport and logistics is another important issue that was discussed. Climate change, climate resilience, and sustainable agriculture, women and youth involvement in agriculture, financing, crop insurance. These were all important aspects of the agriculture and food security plan that we discussed.
In market data for oil prices steadied after a sharp fall in previous session. Brent crude futures were up $1.04 at $91.88 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate futures gained 69 cents to $85.79. That was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, on Thursday evening, Antigua was hit by Tropical Storm Fiona. ABS TV has the details.
At 5 p.m. this afternoon, Tropical storm Fiona was located approximately 420 miles east of Antigua. We see Fiona in the eastern Atlantic moving towards us, and Fiona is expected to be in our area around tomorrow evening. The earliest possible arrival time of the winds, if Fiona speeds up, could be anywhere around early afternoon into the early evening, but the most likely time is around tomorrow evening. So Fiona's location at 5 p.m. was at 16.3 degrees north, 55.4 degrees west, continues to move in a westerly direction, and at 16.3 degrees north, at 5 o'clock, that actually shifted the center of Fiona a little bit further to the south. At 2 o'clock, it was at 16.5. Antigua located at 17.1. And so that means the center is expected to pass just a little bit to the south of the island. Now, let's look at Fiona. This is how Fiona is looking currently. The center continues to remain exposed as a result of some upper level shearing. So the center is not quite covered with a lot of symmetrical clouds. So most of the convection is actually to the east of the center. And with that center passing to the south of us, it's actually, unfortunately, going to put us in the path of most of those winds as well as those convection.
On the eve of the anniversary of the Progressive Liberal Party election, opposition leader Michael Pintard gives his take on the Davis administration first year in office. Italia Hall reports.
Leader of the Free National Movement Michael Pintard making a few admissions during my sit-down interview with the Grand Bahama MP. One of them was that the FNM could have moved more swiftly when it came to reconstruction and restoration efforts following Hurricane Dorian. Pintard summed up September 16, 2021 as a day the public spoke loud and clear, and the FNM, they accepted the outcome. The FNM leader sharing his views on the Progressive Liberal Party's performance over the past year.
In terms of Dorian relief, they are failing at that. The expunging of records relative to, for example, COVID violations, we applaud that. But when you talk about what you have done relative to restoring the lives of persons who are still affected, who prior to the election you indicated you would have a remedy for their condition, this government has failed in that regard.
And as for Grand Bahama, he says the economy is still lacking. He believes the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort was oversold.
And we warned the government, be careful selling dreams, telling people that it's a done deal when it was not. I believe we are now at the end of our second extension, and we are, again, 1 year later. What work, concrete work, not projected, concrete work has been done for the full year that they have been in office relative to the airport? And quite frankly, how do they know that they'll be ready in 2025?
Pintard says he is not opposed to the government's initiatives, adding that it's time to work together.
Not for attempts at cheap political shots when you do not have the moral authority to deliver them.
Expect the heat wave blanketing Barbados to get more intense in the coming days. That's the prediction from Director of the Barbados Meteorological Services, Sabu Best, sharing the most recent data with the Morning Report. He says the maximum temperatures have been trending just above 34 degrees Celsius.
And that indirect impact is that the air, if you want to call it the air supply or the general northeasterly trades, is going to be cut off and the winds are going to drop off. It can get really light, and so it's going to feel a lot warmer outside. Temperatures in the urban areas for sure are going to climb right up to those 34s, and may go to 34.5. But we're not going to necessarily see temperatures going into 36 and 37. That would be really extreme. We don't anticipate that at all. The upper level winds have not been that conducive to help or aid in the development of the tropical cyclones. A lot less so for just off the west coast, but as the systems come off the west coast, they're supposed, as they move further towards the west, and they encounter an environment that's not so conducive. And so this very short-term anomaly for this type of La Nina season is not expected to stay there all the time.
The issue of a special visa needed for travel to the Schengen area in Europe being issued in Guyana has the full attention of the new European ambassador to Guyana, Ren Van Ness. During a sit-down on Wednesday, Van Ness said he is currently engaging member states of the European Union and is trying to implement a temporary solution until a more sustainable solution can be worked out.
it is a concern that I fully understand, and that is something that I really want to see addressed. We are a difficult animal. We have 27 member states, and I will not promise you that it will be solved tomorrow. I would not be honest if I would say that. But it has my full attention. I am talking to member states about this, and we are really trying to get something into place that will first be a temporary solution, but that will make it easier for the people of Guyana to get a visa. And then later on, there will be a more sustainable solution. I depend on member states to come up with these proposals, but I know for a fact that they are really working on this, and I really hope that I have soon good news for you, and that I can share that and say, okay, this is the solution that we are offering now together with the member states, and that will address that very real concern.
Last month, President Dr. Ifran Ali had called on outgoing European Union Ambassador Dr. Fernando Ponce Canto to see that the visa is issued locally, as local business players are among those who have complained of the inconvenience of traveling to neighboring Suriname, where the visa is issued for this service. In international news, the European Union's top official has visited Ukraine again. It is Ursula von der Leyen's third trip to the country since Russia invaded in February. She met with President Volodymyr Zelensky, discussing Europe's support for Ukraine and its bid to join the EU.
A day after giving her State of the Union address in Brussels, where she said Vladimir Putin was waging an energy war on Europe, the president of the European Commission made an unannounced trip to Kyiv. Ursula von der Leyen came with a clear message.
You have your European friends by your side as long as it takes, and that we are friends forever.
Von der Leyen and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appear to have respect for one another. Zelensky unveiled a plaque outside Parliament honoring the EU leader after they held closed-door meetings. Von der Leyen committed to $5 billion in loans to Ukraine and $250 million for schools and temporary housing for people displaced by the war. But she stopped short of committing to any new Russian sanctions, something Kyiv has been asking for.
Von der Leyen announced that she will be hosting a Ukraine Reconstruction Congress at the end of October in Berlin, where she will be bringing together people to discuss how much money Ukraine will need to rebuild and where to get that money from. And that amount could keep going up because Ukraine continues to be destroyed as this country's war continues.
Late Wednesday night, Russian cruise missiles hit a dam in southern Ukraine, forcing water to overflow a local river and partially flooding Kryvyi, a city of 600,000 that is Zelensky's hometown.
We understand that at the destroyed dam there were no Ukrainian military units. It doesn't surprise me that Russia is hitting civilian infrastructure because they've done it before.
It was the second strike on civilian infrastructure in recent days by the Russians after they also bombed a thermal power plant in the northeast, temporarily cutting power to Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. While von der Leyen wanted to talk about rebuilding, the Ukrainians continue to call for what they consider more immediate needs: weapons that they say are the only way to end the war.
In sports, Cricket West Indies, in conjunction with New Zealand cricket team management, have agreed to postpone the first CG United one-day international scheduled for Friday, September 16 due to the passage of Tropical Storm Fiona, which is likely to pass over Antigua and Leeward Islands on Friday. CWI and NZC will confirm the rescheduled date and any implications for dates in the wider 8-match itinerary featuring 3 CG United ODIs and 5 T20 internationals in due course. A decision will also be made on the second CG United ODI scheduled for Sunday, September 18, subject to the impact of the storm. Both teams want to ensure that, if possible, the full 8-match series can be played, since point 1 in the CG United ODI series contributes towards the new ICC Women's Championship, which provides a direct pathway to qualification for the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup in 2025. The T20 International Series plays a key role in both teams' preparations for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup in 2023. It is also the West Indies women's first home international cricket since September 2021. Olympic gold medalist Usain Bolt went from the running track to the runway by taking the catwalk for Puma during New York Fashion Week. 5-time Olympic champion Elaine Thompson-Herah also walked the runway before posting on Instagram, quote, "Top gal, country gal, dream of walking the runway finally came through," end quote. Thompson-Herah went on to thank Puma for the opportunity, as well as model Winnie Harlow for the modeling tips backstage. As we head into the weekend after the first full week of back to school, we take a look at some young student leaders participating in the Kiwanis Builders Club oratorical contest.
It is said that we should remember that one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. Our children are seen as the future, and as such, they require the necessary skills to build a better future. The Kiwanis Builders Club led the way by hosting an oratorical contest. The aim? To equip young student builders with the skills of thinking clearly, speaking persuasively, and listening to opinions of others critically and constructively. Speaking on topics such as school uniforms are not beneficial to learning experience.
A uniform by itself has no inherent value beyond providing clothing. It does not assist in the actual learning process. When we examine the recent experiences of virtual learning across the global education sector, it is evident that the learning experience was occurring without the use of school uniforms for the most part. I can personally assess my own years of homeschooling where my educational outcomes were far above average without me wearing a school uniform. In fact, the wearing of school uniforms suggested by procon.org can detract from the learning experience, where students are branded, labeled, and ostracized because of being identified by a uniform to a particular school.
Did you know that children learn best when they are comfortable, relaxed, and are in a positive state of mind? In words of Albert Einstein, and I quote, "Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school," end quote. As I attempt to put this mood into perspective, I now stop to wonder a few questions. During summer school or even Saturday classes, the requirement for uniform is relaxed. Is there a difference in the learning experience at those times? Are students at a disadvantage because they are not in their uniforms? Do children acquire skills differently whether they wear school uniform or not?
And what does Builders Club mean to me?
We develop life skills whenever we participate in any Builders Club activity. Life skills we would use further on in life to pursue our career of choice. These skills would help us such as public speaking, as I'm doing right now, or in any other area.
As a vision of Builders Club clearly states, I am proud to be a part of the vision. Builders Club International student-led organization producing members like myself empowers me to work hard and giving service to service who needs homes.
The speakers excelled and showed what made them qualified as leaders and gave hope for the future generation. The Kiwanis Builders Club, improving the world, one child and one community at a time.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Have a great weekend.